Okay.
So, well, something I could start with is that design build, some of the benefits that it's done for us. It's one thing it's done for us is it's allowed us to be a little more creative and then write our own specs basically instead of working off somebody else's specifications or lack of them. It's basically eliminated some of the competition. We're often competing against ourselves or just working on how much people can afford. So let's see, I think the reason why we got into it, or I got into it originally, is I was get these like drawings that needed to be redesigned from people who like they would have a landscape architect that didn't listen to the client, or that's what the client said, and put all kinds of things they didn't want on there, and just way exceeded their budget. So I wound up having to redesign things, and or getting just poor drawings that were, the yard was actually 15 feet shorter or longer than what they showed, and you get like 4 little dots, and that's supposed to be a pergola. So basically we had to do a lot of filling in the blanks and working things out with people anyway. So now we get paid for doing some of that, as well as doing more of we have more time to do proper site analysis and stuff. So before it was always how much time do you go out and spend on a estimate? Do you go out and shoot all the elevations and things? Because unless you're getting something from a landscape architect that has every elevation shot and everything specified, you're going to have to do a lot of work and maybe come up with your own specs and allowances and things like that to make this into a job for the client. So we've enjoyed it. It's worked well for us for the most part. There are other possibilities too. There's ways you can work with, like be a landscape architect's one of their main people, and you're usually competing against similar people, which I don't mind doing if we're competing, apples to apples instead of something completely different, or with somebody who can do the job for next to nothing because they don't know what they're doing or how to price things, or just have low overhead because it's them in a pickup truck or something. So
Chuck in a truck.
Yeah, yep. We've seen them around. I got a truck and a wheelbarrow, and I can landscape.
To piggyback off what Calvin said too, is it's a great opportunity actually. If this is the space you want to be in, design build. Every client meeting I have, just to be the person that can tell them, hey, we can do the design and we can take you full service throughout construction. And if you're into garden care after that too, it could be, you can really be there from the conception of the whole project, getting in with the client. You get to see it get built. As a landscape architect, sometimes if you give your drawings to a construction company and there's not good dialogue back and forth, that can lead to a lot of errors, confusion, finger pointing. But design build, everything's in-house, so you have control over the whole process going forward. So you can really see it, the drawings, the imagination process to get the designs. You build it, you get to see your design get built, and then if you get lucky, if you're into garden care after, you get to care for it, and then that sets you up for great portfolio shots in a year or so down the road. So it's a very unique space. It's a great selling point for the client too, saying, hey, I don't have to bid you out to 3 contractors or set all these other people that you don't know. You're set up there, you got their trust, and they'll stick with you, if you do a good job and can relate to the client, really develop that relationship. It could be something that lasts for years down the road. So yeah, it's just a rare opportunity, especially if you're either the contractor, the landscape architect. You're really there the whole process, and you can for clients knowing they're not going to have to call 5 other people to get their garden built. So
Yeah, so it is a real benefit to the client for that, because they're dealing with one company. They don't have to deal with a separate designer or landscape architect and contractor. Then maybe any differences between those two. We're one company. Another thing is we often do a lot of the same things. You know, people develop styles, or they like using certain types of edging or pavers or something like that, and concrete. And so the crew is used to that. It's like we're doing this again on this job, or a slight variation of it. So a lot of benefits.
We get to help clients to make sure they don't make mistakes on their material solution choices. So when you get comfortable with materials and you're able to sell those materials, to me, your project is going to be better in the long run.
Yeah, and we often know as contractors too, you know, what's available and what's going to work best too, since we're installing and repairing these things all the time. So,
And if there's any too, Laura, along the way, do you want to capture those, or because I feel free as we cover different subjects, if something comes up in the moment, so you don't forget, I'll be open to answer any questions also along the way.
Yeah, same here.
Throw that out there. That way we're not just talking and then everyone's quiet. If something comes up, feel free to ask.
Or you can put them, you can put your questions in the chat too, and we can go back at the end, or raise your hand, unmute yourself, and join the discussion is fine as well.
Great. Do we want to dive into some of those questions that we had? I know
I was going to ask the same question.
topics. All right. So I can start, or if somebody, the first question on there was how to deal with clients that price shop your designs to someone else with that work. In terms of us, we keep our designs completely separate from the construction. We do a strong, also before we even get started, from the initial phone call or inquiry online, we do a strong vetting process where you can kind of really see what the client's looking for. We do, you know, we're strictly design build. We want to be doing the design, and we design with the intent to build. And through the questions we ask originally, we can kind of feel if the person's looking, you know, if they say something like, I just want a 400 square foot lawn for my kids to play on. We love building lawns. We love, you know, especially for kids to play on, but that's probably not the right project for us. So it wouldn't be doing the client justice if we say, oh yeah, let's go out there, we can lay some sod. If that's the case, a lot of times we'll refer them to the CLCA website or somebody who might specialize in that and have them take it over because it's the right fit for them. But from those initial questions, really finding out what they're after, we do initial meetings. By the time you get to the design proposal, you already kind of developed a relationship with them. And at that point, we show samples of our design work, and we just give them the design proposal, and we make it clear that it's completely separate from construction. We don't credit it back like, oh, if you build with us, we'll give you your, you know, design money back. In our eyes, we take great pride in our designs, and we let that stand alone. They buy the designs, and if they end up shopping it out, they have the opportunity to do that, even though we want to build it. But at least we got paid for the amount of hours we put in for measuring, designing, and taking time to present. So that's kind of our angle. By the time we get through the vetting process, present the design, most of the times we already had a great relationship with the client where they're going to go with us 90% of the time anyways.
Right, I agree. I think it's very important to have it be a separate entity in itself, the landscape design. So we charge a decent amount for our designs, and that's part of the way we can weed out those people that just want 400 square feet of lawn. They just want 400 square feet of lawn. They're probably not willing to pay for the design, so we're going to pass. We're going to give them Calvin's number.
I'll give them to somebody else who's just starting out. Then we'll all be happy.
So,
you know, those people that are advertising that they give designs away for free, you know, our favorite competitors, the people are paying for it one way or another. They're
Yeah.
making it into their costs, or they're charging for it up front. So
It's a gimmick, yeah. And usually, I mean, there's a heck of a lot of landscapers out there, and I see different new trucks. It seems like every day on the freeway, companies I've never heard of before. So, I mean, most of the people that hire us or Steve or Clay and everybody here, past the gate guys, basically they're looking for somebody who they don't want to take chances at this point. They just want it done right. You know, we can come in and tell them it's going to take, 8 weeks, and we'll have it done in 7.5 weeks, and we're going to stand behind our work. And I mean, if there's any mistakes or anything, we're going to take care of them. So a lot of times people I've even been swayed by low prices myself when I didn't have that much money and I had to get some remodeling done, and made the mistake of hiring too cheap a contractor. So we've all been burned, and a lot of times that's good. It's a learning lesson to go with a better contractor and designer. So
You get what you pay for.
yeah, I've also mentioned to people too, when I've gone out and done the talking myself, a lot of times my designer does it now. She mostly does the consultations with people and vetting, and but to tell people that one thing I like to do is, when I did more competitive bidding, is going back and looking what the other company did. And a lot of times they gave them a better price, but we might have given them a better value. You go back and there's like, they only put down like 1 inch of mulch, and there's like one tree stake, or maybe they just used the nursery stake, and they put in cheaper lights and cheaper controller, and the boulders are a third the size. And it's like, well, yeah, they might have, they did $4,000 less than us or something like that, but they got $6,000 less value, so
Right.
it's not.
It's convincing them that value is there.
Pardon me?
It's convincing them that the value is there is the trick.
Yeah. Well, it's a constant. I find one thing in this job, and I guess this part I enjoy at least, is that it's constantly a process of educating people. It's from the get-go, and then into the maintenance. Every time I go back to a house, I'm talking to people about the maintenance. So.
David put a question in the chat. He wanted to know, at what point in the process do you get an installation agreement?
Usually after the design. Hi, this is Greg.
Hey, Greg.
I made it.
Hey, Greg.
I was a little late.
There's Greg.
Hey, so how are you? So as far as once you present the design, it's usually actually when you sell the job for us, we sell it on the first meeting. Right after that meeting, we do a Google Earth of the property and get a square footage. And based on what we interviewed them with, what their answers were to the questions and such, we know what they're looking for. And based on my 30+ experience, we can do a square foot of their property. And I can tell them you're between 80,000 and 110,000. And then we present them with the design fee. Here's how much it's going to be to design. And it's a conceptual plan, and we do some 3D renderings. And now we're even doing movies where they can wander through their garden. But then once they sign that design contract, we close 90% of our jobs because they know what they're going to get. And we bring that design in, and it may be a little over, it's usually never under, but that's when that sale converts to installation. And then once we present the design, I just got back from one, presented it, it was over budget, they went for everything and they added more. So that's been our process. The sooner that you can ballpark people, the better. And a technique I used in the beginning was I would take a job and I would get the square footage and I would look at it. Okay, we got concrete, a pergola, outdoor kitchen. Then I take the price, divide it by the square foot, and you got a square foot price, maybe $50 a square foot. So you can, when you talk to someone who wants all that sort of stuff and you square foot their property, you can use that square foot price. It get you closer than most.
Yeah, we pretty much do the same thing, and then we design to budget. And
Yeah.
we involve the client in the decision making, which is, I think, one of the second question, the other questions there. And then, so by the end, I mean, we've agreed, okay, this is going to be an $80,000 job. This is the materials they've chosen, everything. It's, you know, why would they back out at that point? I mean, sometimes they do, but it's usually it's a go. I mean, they're excited about it. They've been working with us. This is what they want. This is the price they've agreed on. What's the objection at that point? So sometimes people will check our price or something, but they usually wind up going with us still.
Do you charge for your initial consultation? Was another question that came up in the chat.
I have in the past, but I don't anymore. I feel I give them some, I do charge for the design work, and it's theirs. If they want to shop it, it's a conceptual plan. They can do what they want with it, but usually they don't. But as far as charging for the conceptual or for the initial meeting, depends how busy you are. You know, you can get, some people get $100, some get 150. It's what you value your time per hour.
But unless it sounds like they want more of just a consultation, we can charge for that. But we'll usually go out if it's within like a half hour in our office of our office, and basically we're doing a minimum job size this year starting at $40,000. So if it meets those criteria, and it sounds like a fit over, you know, just asking a few questions, discussing the job on the phone, maybe looking at Google Docs while we're talking to them. I mean, at the Google Maps, then we'll go out and make it a half-hour appointment and see where it goes from there. See if we're a good fit with the client and vice versa. And it's nice to get to know the client through the design process too, so we know who we're dealing with. I mean, a lot of times you can get it in the first meeting or so if the client's going to be difficult or not. But that's something that's good to establish also.
Yeah, I've never charged for the initial consultation, but we do tell people that our minimum design fee is $1,500 and up, and that's only for 10 hours work, so that doesn't go very far.
Yeah, you can get even more for the design, and people don't push back on the design fee. And the other thing with the design fee is we tell them that stands alone. That does not get credited towards work being done.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, sometimes we have to explain why design. I have people, it's like, well, why do you need a design? It's like, well, for planning and communication. So we know exactly how many plants are going to go in there and concrete and all that kind of stuff, and we can do the. And we're putting a lot of good planning into it. You have to, people don't seem to get this or something, that there's really a lot of thought that goes into this. There's the engineering and artistry of it all. And then it's, you know, so the client can see it and my foreman can see it and build it, and everybody has this. And now we use SketchUp, which is a 3D program, which I just love, that the clients can see what they're actually getting instead of just a bunch of squares and rectangles and circles with you know, Latin names on them, what may or may not look impressive. So
Right. We just signed a design contract with a client yesterday that had the hardscape has already been done without a design at all, and now they want to do the planting plan and the lighting plan, and I'm like, well, he didn't give you any measurements? What? I mean, it boggles my mind that people will do that.
Yeah, that's not really a client too. If they start questioning, why do we need a design? That's a red flag right there. And
or at least a yellow flag. Sometimes
Yeah.
I've had some people who are just young and they just don't know.
yeah,
They're just completely oblivious to landscaping. They don't, you know.
yeah, and they got hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend too. So
Hopefully.
yeah.
So Jessica wants to know, where are you finding designers to hire, and do they stay with the company, your company, or do they have a tendency to move around a lot?
My situation is a little more unique. Calvin, you've had some turnover, haven't you?
Most of my people have been here many years. So
Okay.
my current person's been there about 3 years, and the guy before him was here for like 7 years. So We've gotten some off Indeed. That's worked pretty well for professionals like designers and people like that. So, and I try to find somebody who's somewhat familiar with the plants and materials that are used in this area, and who have a similar design interest as we do. So.
Yeah, we've had several designers stay around for many years. So it's not like a revolving door as far as designers go. And when you do advertise for designers, we do seem to get resumes for that as compared to other positions we try to fill that we don't get, that we don't hear anything.
Yeah, we've used Indeed also. We hired one person who had some skill. She didn't last that long. She had a problem getting to work. But I have Clay who's worked for me in the past, and we made a deal for him to take over the business. So that's helped retain him, getting him a percentage of the stock in the company every year. We have had a couple others that are architect majors that worked with Clay, real good with numbers. And then, you know, if they want to move on to get their license, which Matt did, you know, he was free to do that. So they can last 2-3 years, or you can get real long-term ones. And I think Indeed is a good place to go. Never had any luck at the colleges or the universities. That was strange. I thought we would, but I don't know if you guys have.
Well, both of our people right now came from Cal Poly landscape architect programs, but not advertising at colleges. We've never had any real response.
Yeah, right.
I have another question that came up in the chat. What is your typical installation agreement structure? Fixed fee, T&M, negotiated fee, combination of the above?
Ours is fixed fee. It's a contract price. And that goes to some, along with our contract, and it gets into billing. I guess we'll get into that, your cash flow and all of that. But also we give them a sheet of what each item is going to cost as you add so much per square foot for pavers or plants, how much per 5 gallon with irrigation. So they have a list of additional items, which dovetails into change orders. It's everybody's weakness. And we finally gotten to the point where give them a ballpark estimate of the change order on the site to get them to agree before you start the work. Never do the work and then try and get paid for it. Half the time you don't get paid, or you settle for 50%, but at least get something. You know, give them a number. If you don't get all your profit on it, that's okay. You got something. So.
Yeah, I think our prices are mostly fixed fee. T&M is difficult to do legally. I'd love to be able to do it. We've had some people that I know that have done T&M for years and been successful with it, but did I lose everybody? For
the design phase?
Yeah, actually, this question was about installation, wasn't it? I mean, our design fees, I usually we charge $155 an hour, and I give a range of hours that we expect the design to take.
I didn't hear the question exactly. It was broken up a little. Was it regarding design or?
I'm sorry, I'll go back to it. For you, Calvin. What is your typical installation agreement structure? Fixed fee, T&M, negotiated fee, or a combination of the above?
Oh, so it is the installation. Yeah. Yeah, we mostly do fixed fee on, sometimes we'll do time materials on some items, but what we need to do, what I understand legally you need to do is you need to give them a price, like, you know, this is going to be a $10,000 item, approximately, time and materials, and hopefully you bring it in at, you know, 8,000 or so, and then you look like a winner to the clients if the 10,000 didn't already scare them away. So that's a danger of that, but yeah, you want to be hopefully under it, or and let your client know if it looks like it's going to exceed that 10,000. It's like, you know, and often there's unknowns, especially when it comes to digging. You don't know what's underground. If you're going to hit rock or something like that, the sooner you can get to the client and show them this is why this is going to be more expensive, or this is why we need it. It's just going to exceed this. It's probably going to be a couple thousand more or something. Often if they can see that and understand it and they're a reasonable person, they'll be with you. They'll be on board with you. So.
Okay, so there's another question. Do you see a shopping of cost more at 50K or at 100K?
Gosh, we don't really see much shopping. It depends on your clientele and how you initially make that first meeting. I really think if you can give them a ballpark, we do go into places, we give ballparks and we don't hear back from them, but we don't waste our time designing for them either.
Steve, do you have any?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I see more shopping at 50K or 100K. We see some shopping around, but I'd say that's maybe 20% of the clients. Once we got the design going, 80% of them usually sign up.
Yeah.
I would think it might be more with a lower budget client or somebody who's just starting out or something, but
Well, it goes back to the
I
client
can't
that's
say.
just looking for artificial solder, just wants one thing. That's really easy to shop and really easy to understand the differences between apples and oranges. But
yeah, when we get those very narrow focused things like, yeah, I want a new lawn, can you come give me a bid? We don't even bother. We will only take complete redo design build. And that kind of eliminates the shoppers. They're looking to establish a relationship with someone. So the shopping starts when they interview different companies. And once they select that company, they're pretty well sold on that person and they're going to go that direction.
Okay, so another question is, how do you deal with price changes on fixed fees right now since materials are constantly changing?
Well, we bring it to the client. We tell them these prices. As far as it was mainly lumber, now it's pretty much everything. Once we give them the price, we tell them it could change. So we try and keep them informed. We get a bigger price increase. We may have to refine that a little bit better and say, okay, purchase allowance for all this material is going to be X. That's going to be messy though, keeping track of that. So
yeah, I've been trying to figure out how to add that to our contract.
yeah, we put a line in there, but then you get into some heavy duty bookkeeping and they're going to want to see all the receipts and the comparison. I have one client doing that now. He wants to know how much that lumber costs. And explaining to him a 20% margin on material is difficult for some people to grasp. I think the key is everyone should be raising their prices no matter what. You shouldn't really be competing. There's people, we're not getting pushback on anything. We've been raising our prices. We're 30% higher than we were a year ago. And we probably got to push more. We just did all our book review and we're at a 12% profit margin for the year, which is not exactly what I want. I want more, but I think we project 20%. We rarely hit it. 18 is nice. But I think we're keeping up with the inflation of the material or the labor. So it's a tough thing to do, get the contract signed and get it started and finished as quick as you can. That's probably the best way. And also pass it on the front end. Feel free to put 15, 20% on top just because you can't predict. That might be the best way to handle it as trying to go into the bookkeeping.
Oh, yeah, for us, I regret not having a contingency during the COVID rush. All of a sudden we lined up for a while. I had two designers, full-time designers working here, and we lined up a whole bunch of work at once, like several months, and for two crews, and then the prices skyrocketed. So we've just been losing money every time we put in a 2x4 or some steel or something like that. It's like we're losing $1 a foot on this or something. So even though we've been busy and been able to keep the prices up, otherwise we raised our labor rate a little bit this year. We've been overall we're doing well, but we not as well as we could have if we had that contingency in there. And since then we've adjusted the prices upwards, and maybe if people are locked into those prices and they start going down, we'll make up some and have a higher profit margin on the with the falling prices.
I had a client ask me the other day if there was any money coming back to them on their arbor because the cost of lumber has gone down. And I was like, you know, when it goes up 240% and then comes down 40%, it's still up 200%.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I don't have any more questions in the chat, so you guys can go ahead with what you feel is important.
I think one thing everybody should, this thing really saved my business. It's all about your billing. And we bill every week. So we have an itemized, we use the standard CLCA contract, but part of that contract is our proposal that has all the items, so much for demolition, so much for irrigation, plants, et cetera. And each one of those items has a number. So every week on Monday, I get that proposal for all the different jobs in front of me, and I write down a % complete of each item. And we send it out via QuickBooks. They can pay that way. They can pay by check, however they want. But we got a check for last week's work by the end of the next week. And our cash flow stays great. We're able to pay our bills, take our discounts. And the other big thing is, at the very end, they're only holding a small percentage of each of those items instead of 30% of each item. Some people do a third down, a third at 2/3, and a third at the end. You're screwing yourself. You want to do that percentage every week. And every time you deliver material, bill for it that week. So you're not hanging out a supplier. That's the number one thing I think that I can give as advice to a startup company.
Yeah, we do the same thing. So you stay on top of the, and that improves your cash flow. And then also it establishes acceptance too, that if, you know, when somebody's writing a check, it's saying basically we approve of the work that was done last week. And so we typically bill it out on a Saturday. My bookkeeper sends it out, and then either my designer or myself, who's ever project managing or supervising the construction, will go out on a Monday and meet with the client and make sure they're happy, go over anything and the foreman and pick up the check. So that works pretty well.
Can I read another question from the chat?
Sure.
Sometimes client would like to hear on first meeting how much project can cost. Would you give potential clients any guess of what he is looking to, guess of project he is looking to do at the first meeting?
So, yeah, at that first meeting, no, it's all about the interview and getting trust built. Some people asked, I said, I got to go back, do a square foot takeoff with Google Earth, and then I can give you some accurate price ranges. I don't give them details though. I just tell them you're between 40 and 60. I'm not going to break it down for the patio and all that. You got to have a full design for that. And I just point blank tell them we charge for that. And dovetailing off of that, sometimes you'll get a client that starts asking, well, what would you do over here? What are you doing over here? Those are people just trying to get your ideas. I just tell them, you know, I haven't thought about that. I want to hear some stuff from you. I got questions for you, but I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do here today. And they're typically shoppers. They don't hang around.
Yeah, I try to avoid giving ballpark figures until we have the design. I just tell clients, you know, unless it's something that I really have a strong idea of, I will tell them that they got to wait till the design's done.
Yeah, we often start out, we're a little different. We often start out with a range to kind of establish people's budgets or I don't like to ask people what their budget is necessarily. I like to tell them about, you know, given what they're telling us about how much it's going to cost, and then go from there. So see if it's realistic.
I have a pretty good questionnaire that asks questions about budget, and a lot of times that just gives me the ability to say you're really low. You want a pool and an arbor and a barbecue and everything for $100 grand. What year are you?
A lot of people don't know, and it's often twice what they think it's going to be or more. Even I'm surprised how expensive things costs these days. I mean, that since COVID and the materials and everything, it's crazy how little you get for $100,000 or $200,000. So.
It
Yeah, and
is,
then you tell them that the clearing alone is going to be 25 grand, and they're like, what?
Yeah, times so.
back to what we were talking about before and how you bill. David wants to know, did you ever get pushback from the clients when they're having to write a weekly check to you?
Not me, never. They seem to like it.
Not too many issues there. Occasionally somebody will pick, you know, they'll like, oh, did you actually get this much done on this or something? And I'll just like, well, okay, write me a check for 1,000 less or a couple thousand less this week, and we'll get it next week or whatever. It's or that, I mean, that is the fact that we're doing that weekly billing. It is an opportunity for them to bring up something if there's some perceived issue or something like that, so we can address it, work it out. But, for the most part, people just write the check. So.
Okay, so I have another question about that. Do you get pushback on the final payment?
I don't, but that really takes a good team in the field and also project manager making sure all those details are done. The other good thing about the way we weekly bill and that percentage, that final check is a couple grand on a $200,000 job, maybe $4 grand. So it's not that bad. But yeah, you got to get everything taken care of to get paid 100%. There's no question. We also do a mandatory 90-day maintenance, and that allows us to get paid no problem. And we just tell them the maintenance crew is going to pick up those last few plants that haven't come in yet. Or if you've got a defective plug or something, we'll have the maintenance crew take care of that. So your contract payments are all done, and they just, you know, continue on with the maintenance crew. We don't leave the job 100%. We're there for another 90 days at least.
Yeah, it's usually not a problem if you know, unless there's a problem on the job or you're having a difficult client. I mean, I've had some clients that just try to get something for nothing or want to find something to deduct something for. So that's a matter of vetting out the better clients from the difficult ones sometimes. And when we're slow, that tends to be when I find a difficult client. So they kind of use all your time and don't want to pay you, and I can go on and on.
Yeah, that's a whole nother seminar.
Yeah.
So another question is, how has the current supply chain issue impacted your operation?
It's changed our design strategy. Pavers are a real pain in the neck to get. So we try and find out what the lead time is on that, but it's gotten so bad that I've told Clay and Daniel, let's start designing more concrete stuff we know we can get. That's been our big shift. So the only other way to handle it is make sure that you get a signed contract and you get the designs, the selections done right away, and then order, because it's going to take 4 to 6 weeks to get that stuff. It's not always, and then also have an alternate. You know, we can get this from this person, you know, pick 2 different suppliers, similar product, and whoever can get it in first. People seem to be very accommodating, substituting materials because they want the work done. The other thing is to design so you don't have to use materials that are in short supply.
Yeah, that's been a challenge for us this year also. We had one client who was quite upset that here we were in the middle of the yard is torn up. We couldn't get pavers. We kept getting different things about whether they were going to be made again or they had discontinued this type or something. And so we went back round and round. Anyway, we've had a few issues like that and wound up changing suppliers and talking to some of the companies themselves to find out what's really going on. And now we're just trying to order everything way in advance my one client was very upset, is very happy now that, her garden is finally done and everything. So, and apologized to us for being quite upset about things with my designer and everybody, but came out well. So
I think most people are very understanding because they're hearing about it on the news and from
Yeah,
everybody else.
yeah.
but
We're having to
maybe we
move,
get
we're having to
the
move people, we're having to move some of our jobs around because of that. And I'm also dealing with, it's not just us, but we follow general contractors. I'm dealing with 4 different pool contractors this year. And it's like we're held up, we're pushing a job. Just today, we're talking about pushing another job out because the pool company can't get the coping on a place. So it's been a challenge this year.
I was just going to say,
Glad we're busy and doing well, but
we also design and build pools, and man, if the landscape industry was as bad as the pool industry right now, I'd probably be under a bridge somewhere
Or hanging from it.
or hanging. Exactly. It's unique, and then you add barbecues and your refrigerators, and even some of the lighting we've had issues with. I've got 2 barbecues that have been in for more than 3 months that are still waiting for their refrigerators to go in, to come in, and now they're telling me December. So luckily those clients are pretty understanding, but man.
Okay, so in the chat, Doug said, I read in a Watershed Wise landscape guide that there is no typical budget for landscape design and installation. A good rule of thumb is, I can't get it to go down.
5 to 10% of your current market value of your home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't see that holding up. You gotta get a little more refined. I mean, you can do it. It just takes a little effort, like I said, just get a job, take square footage, divide that into the cost, and there you have a square foot number. And you get a few of them, a plant irrigation job, a heavy construction job, and you can refine it much better. I haven't found that rule works. Some people get scared off of that.
Well,
I mean,
some
it's-
people that own $1 million house, you're telling them it's going to be $500,000. They're going to, that
Yeah.
doesn't hold up. I don't think that holds up anymore.
No, it doesn't. $1 million house here is just an average place.
Yep.
And they're probably more in the 150 range
Right.
without a pool. So yeah, that number is horrible to use.
Okay. There's no more questions in the chat right now.
So do we want to look at some of the topics that you had? Because I thought they were all pretty to the point. I mean,
Yeah, that'd be great.
when we talked about how to deal with clients at Price Shop, right? I mean,
Mhm.
we pretty well beat up. Strategies for a clear vision of what customers have in mind. I think that's the interview process, and make sure you listen to what they say and you ask them questions that are going to drive your design. What do you guys think?
The interview process, and the first thing we do is we send them a question, a 4-page questionnaire that asks everything from, do they have pets, to, what kind of cooks they are as far as outdoor kitchens goes, to what do they want play areas, to try to get as much information as you can before that initial meeting. And then you can also weed it out. If the person only is interested in a fence and some sod, you can easily weed them out. And they'll weed themselves out when they see the questionnaire. They'll go, oh, well, this guy does more than we need.
Yeah, true.
yeah, so something I like to ask people also is to get an idea of what they're looking for, is to have us show them gardens or maybe in their neighborhood or something, or landscapes that they like, things they like, maybe stuff they don't like even, and then pictures out of magazines, so I can really get an idea of what kind of colors and hardscapes and softscapes and colors, heights, densities, how busy something would be, what are they looking for. We can also show them the work we've done, which I like to do too, and talk to them about the quality and limitations of it.
How's idea books?
Pardon?
How's idea books work really well?
What was that?
I said, how's idea
Oh
book?
yeah. That
Really
used to
well.
work. It used to work better for us. Because a lot of people would like come to us with, oh, we love these 3 designs of yours and these, 3 from outside designers and landscape architects or other contractors. And it was like the homework was already done and they've already kind of invested in us. But yeah, we don't seem to get that as much now, so.
I almost consider that kind of lazy designing. It's like taking your portfolio out. You get a client, and I see this all the time because a lot of clients do have, kind of a scrapbook of, oh, I like this, I like this, I like this. And I'm looking at them all and I go, okay, you like the arbor there, you like the contemporary design here, and then you like this cottage garden because it has a cute gate. So they're just picking things they like, and a lazy designer will just make sure those things will be in there. And I think it's better to.
Right, you got to be careful not to fall into that trap.
Exactly.
And also,
Exactly.
you also got to be, the other thing I tell clients is we're not just drafters.
Yeah.
Those are the clients that
Yeah,
just
it's
want
like-
to come and draft their ideas are not what we're looking for.
Yeah. That's.
Yeah, it's like you
most
might
part.
have, I guess an analogy to that would be as if you had like 5 favorite foods, you probably wouldn't want to have them all together though. So.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's see, what else do we have? So that was the clear vision to customers. What are you doing? Client indicates the design. Oh, so the next one is like, what do you do when a client indicates that the design that they agreed to is not what they envisioned? I haven't had that. I only had that one time, and that was because we decided that we would take a different direction, and we never did that again. You should be able to find out everything just in that interview. And if your interview is that good and your questionnaire is that good, you shouldn't be disappointed. The other thing is, doing 3-dimensional renderings is really going to help make sure that what they envision is what they get. You also got to be careful with those renderings because they're looking at colors and they're looking at textures, and that's what they expect to get. So you got to be careful, make sure any paper pattern you got, that's something you can get, and the colors, and, you're using patterns from manufacturers you can get. Because they'll look at those renderings, and even though they're conceptual, they're really expected to be that way. So it's a double-edged sword. You do a good job on those, you eliminate that missing their vision.
Yeah, with us, it usually just happens to a minor degree or something. We complete the drawing and people want some minor changes. So we usually built in about 4 hours or so to make a few changes. People want something moved over or different, can you put more reds in the design or something like that? So, yeah. But because we involved them in the process and we have the 3D design and all that, it's not like somebody's going to look at it and this isn't at all what I want. We're not going to get that reaction. So.
Right, well, we have a client that we designed to their budget, had something that we liked, and they said, no, we want a covered outdoor kitchen, we want a sauna, we want to move the retaining wall back. Oh, we not a covered outdoor kitchen, but we want a big pergola. And I told them that's going to blow up your budget. And they ended up, when they got their budget, calling us thieves and horrible things and getting their money back from their credit card. And so occasionally, but that's very rare that we have those issues.
We had
You've
some-
Yeah,
we had
Steve, you've been in
something like
business a long
that.
time. Yeah, the longer you're in business, you're going to run into that. But
Yeah.
it's rare. It's really rare.
Yeah, we had something like that where the client just they wanted something more expensive and my designer wouldn't put it on because it was going to blow their budget. And so it was this kind of dueling force that basically they wound up not paying the design fee, and I don't know what they did. So, but usually that's kind of an anomaly. So.
It's an anomaly. Yeah, we even got, for this client, we even got an email from him that says, you nailed it, great job.
But
But they just didn't want to pay for it, so.
yeah. So I guess the next item down would be staying ahead of payment issues. I think we kind of talked about that pretty much, didn't we?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
I think we talked about that.
Yeah. How not to get